inside Putin's cabal of bloodthirsty top brass who bomb hospitals, gas kids, and run down protesters with tanks. Vladimir Putin's botched but vicious invasion of Ukraine is being run by a brutal cabal of bloodthirsty generals. Russia's top commanders have a savage charge sheet against them, including deliberately running down and killing protesters with tanks, and indiscriminately shelling civilians. General Sergei Shoigu has commanded Russia's armed forces since 2012. Credit, Alamy. General Valery Gerasimov is accused of assisting the downing of flight MH17. Credit, AP. Russian commanders were accused of some of the worst crimes of the Syrian civil war. Credit, EPA. As Putin's planned quick invasion of Ukraine appears to turn against him, the Russian army has resorted to more and more vicious measures. Almost 90% of the southern city of Mariupol has been damaged or destroyed, while numerous atrocities have been reported, including the shelling of a theater killing 300, or the bombing of a maternity hospital. But these atrocities should sadly come as little surprise to those who have been following the actions of Putin's thugs in recent years. From the bloody civil war in Syria to the brutal annexation of Crimea, and even killing their own people, Putin's top generals have been accused of waging savagery across the world for decades. It comes as the so-called butcher of Mariupol Colonel General Mikhail Mizintsev was caught appearing to call for his own soldier to be mutilated after he wore his uniform wrong. Mizintsev appeared to call for the soldier to have his face messed up in a chilling intercepted phone call, and urged others to beat him with a bottle for the mistake. Ukraine has alleged that Putin's general was behind both the bombing of a maternity hospital in the city as well as the shelling of a theater being used as a bomb shelter by up to 1,000 people. But he is just one of many Russian generals accused of brutal crimes in recent years. Human Rights Watch has singled out 6 top Russian commanders for their involvement in crimes in Syria. Since their first involvement in the civil war, supporting dictator Bashar al-Assad, Russian forces were accused of a number of atrocities in the Middle Eastern country. Amnesty International said in a statement, Russia is guilty of some of the most egregious war crimes it had seen in decades. Russian warplanes allegedly deliberately targeted civilians and rescue workers during bombing raids, using banned cluster munitions or firebombing, especially in the flattened city of Aleppo. In 2013, rockets containing the deadly chemical agent sarin were fired at the Damascus suburb of Ghouta, with Russia and Syria being blamed for the attack. Both parties denied their involvement in the savagery, which killed from at least 281 to 1,729 people, including many children. Russia's defense minister Sergei Shoigu played a crucial role in the deadly Russian involvement in Syria and the previous invasion of Ukraine in 2014. After being appointed Minister of Defense in 2012, he directly participated in Russia's annexation of Crimea and military intervention in Ukraine 2 years later. In July 2014, Ukraine opened a criminal case against Shoigu, accusing him of forming illegal militias in eastern Ukraine. Those military groups fought against the Ukrainian army and were involved in the downing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 on July 17, 2014. Shoigu later led Russia's brutal military operation in Syria, supporting the country's dictator Bashar al-Assad. Russia's army is accused of numerous war crimes in Syria, including the use of cluster munitions, deliberately targeting civilians and rescue workers, and indiscriminate airstrikes. Valery Gerasimov has been chief of the General Staff of the Russian Army since 2012, as well as a member of the Russian Security Council. As author of the Gerasimov Doctrine, he is accused of unleashing a new form of armed conflict, called hybrid warfare. In it, he called for the increased use of asymmetric actions such as special operations forces and internal opposition as well as propaganda to destabilize the enemy, creating a state of permanent conflict. These techniques would first be demonstrated in Ukraine in 2014, where Gerasimov organized and developed plans for the Russian invasion of Crimea and Donbas. Investigative site Bellingcat claims Gerasimov was among those responsible for the transporting of the Buk air defense system to the Donbas, and launching the missile that downed MH17. Ukraine branded him the main mastermind of the 2014 conflict in Donbas, while then head of the country's investigative department, Gregory Ostafyichuk, said he was personally present during the bloody Ilovaisk battle in August of that year. The brutal 4-week battle saw Russian forces surround the city in eastern Ukraine, attacking soldiers after failing to honor an agreement to allow Ukrainian troops to withdraw. Ukraine's government described the events as a massacre, with one Ukrainian soldier said it had been massacre. Gerasimov also organized Russia's military operation in Syria, which began in September 2015. Amnesty International alleges that Russian aircraft deliberately attacked civilians and rescuers in February 2016. Over the course of the war, Russia unleashed a staggering 39,000 airstrikes on Syria, according to Air Wars, which tracks reports of civilian casualties. By the end of 2018, the total civilian death toll in Syria as a result of Russian airstrikes was between 2,730 and 3,866, including 690 to 844 children. Human Rights Watch has alleged that Rudskoy may bear command responsibility for the 2019 to 2020 Idlib offensive in Syria. Rudskoy had earlier denied Russian responsibility for the bombing of Al-Sakawar hospital. Russia is guilty of some of the most egregious war crimes. Amnesty International. Commander of Russian forces in Syria between March and April 2019, Colonel General Sergei Vladimirovich Surovikin was in charge of the bombing of Ukrainian cities during the Russian invasion. Last year, Surovikin was promoted to General of the Army, with many speculating he could eventually replace Gerasimov. He took over as head of Putin's vicious force in Syria in 2017, and again from January to April 2019, holding the position for longer than anyone else. Commander of Russian forces in Syria from April 2019 until September 2019, Colonel General Andrei Nikolaevich Serdyukov led the 2014 annexation of Crimea. He became commander of the Russian airborne troops in October 2016 and also commanded Russia's armed forces in Syria between April and September 2019. Colonel General Sergei Rudskoy was responsible for the Idlib offensive in Syria. Credit, AFP. Lieutenant General Alexander Chaiko commanded Russia's forces in Syria between September 2019 and September 2020. William Roebuck, the former U.S. ambassador to Bahrain, argues that Russia's intervention in Syria paved the way for its current war in Ukraine. Writing for the Arab Gulf States Institute in Washington, he said that the Russian military punched way above its weight class in Syria, because Putin's commanders punched way above its